Canned tuna is often viewed as one of the more convenient and nutritious protein sources available in today's food landscape. It's affordable, shelf-stable, and packed with protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and important micronutrients. But when convenience becomes habit and habit becomes daily consumption, canned tuna begins to shift from healthy staple to a potential health hazard. While it remains an important food option for millions, the growing body of research around mercury accumulation in fish, and particularly in tuna, should make even healthy adults think twice about making it a daily dietary choice. The risks are subtle, cumulative, and potentially severe, especially for vulnerable populations. The central concern with canned tuna is mercury, a heavy metal that is both naturally occurring and environmentally exacerbated by industrial pollution. Mercury bioaccumulates up the food chain, meaning large predatory fish like tuna end up with far higher concentrations than smaller species. And once mercury is in your body, it doesn't simply pass through, it lingers in tissues and organs, particularly affecting the brain and nervous system. Long-term mercury exposure is linked with neurological damage, impaired cognition, loss of coordination, and increased cardiovascular risk. For young children, older adults, and pregnant individuals, the effects can be more acute and devastating. Even relatively low levels of mercury exposure have been tied to developmental delays in children and increased risk of cognitive decline in aging populations. Albacore, white tuna is especially problematic, as it tends to contain 3 times as much mercury as the skipjack species used in canned light tuna. While the Food and Drug Administration has issued guidelines limiting albacore intake to just 1 4-ounce serving per week for pregnant people and children, these recommendations assume average mercury levels across products. But the truth is that mercury content in canned tuna is not consistent. Some cans test significantly higher than the average, meaning you could inadvertently ingest far more than is considered safe, even if you're following government guidelines. This lack of predictability is what prompted Consumer Reports to urge pregnant individuals to avoid tuna entirely, and it should give others pause as well. Another often overlooked issue is cumulative exposure over time. Mercury does not produce immediate symptoms in most cases. Instead, its impact accumulates gradually. Months or years of frequent consumption can lead to toxic levels without any early warning signs. People who eat tuna daily, even if it's light tuna, may find themselves crossing into unsafe exposure zones simply due to repetition. And those who rely heavily on tuna for dietary reasons, such as athletes, dieters, or budget-conscious eaters, are at greater risk, particularly if they are unaware of the differing mercury levels between tuna types. There's also the question of labeling and consumer trust. Not all canned tuna is labeled with sufficient clarity to distinguish between light and albacore, and not all brands are equally transparent about their mercury testing practices. The market is flooded with inexpensive products that do not routinely undergo rigorous screening, leaving consumers to assume safety where none may exist. Furthermore, the issue extends to sustainability and the environmental impact of tuna fishing practices. Though not a direct health concern, it's another reason for consumers to question daily reliance on this food. It's important to understand that mercury toxicity doesn't require absurd levels of intake. Symptoms of chronic exposure, such as fatigue, mood disturbances, headaches, or memory lapses, can easily be misattributed to other causes, delaying diagnosis and prolonging exposure. By the time neurological or cardiovascular complications are detected, reversing the damage is not always possible. This is a particular concern for those who consume tuna daily over long periods, especially if they also eat other high-mercury seafood, such as swordfish, king mackerel, or certain types of sushi. Even among healthy adults, moderation is not a suggestion, it is a necessary safeguard. Eating tuna occasionally, once or twice a week at most, is likely safe for most people when light tuna is chosen. But daily intake, particularly of albacore or unregulated brands, carries risks that cannot be ignored. The appeal of tuna, cheap, filling, and versatile, can lure people into regular consumption without fully understanding the long-term consequences. And as the cost of living rises and food prices soar, it's entirely plausible that more people will lean on canned tuna as a dietary mainstay, making awareness even more essential. In conclusion, while canned tuna does have its place in a balanced diet, that place should be occasional and informed. Daily consumption is not advisable, especially for anyone in a sensitive life stage or with pre-existing health concerns. Even healthy individuals who value their long-term cognitive and cardiovascular health should be cautious. There are safer, equally affordable protein options like beans, eggs, lentils, or sardines that carry less risk and greater dietary variety. Tuna may be a pantry hero, but like any hero, it has its limits. Ignoring them invites danger not just in theory, but in real, measurable health outcomes over time.